Kata 5 minit. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And very good afternoon again from Kuala Lumpur. And it's me again. And before I start, let me introduce myself. My name is Sugani, and I'll be your host for this session. And this session, we're going to have two speakers. But before I start, let me read some ground rules. One is that the session is being recorded and it will be available immediately after the session ends. And you hope that our speakers to put your microphone in a mute until you are invited to speak. We are very grateful if you can turn on your camera all the time, if you can. And if the audience or any of the speaker who want to have any queries or any clarification needed, please write in the chat box on the right-hand corner of your screen. Okay. Because we are running behind time, so let me invite our first speaker of the day of this session. His name is Mr. Baraka Hamza Kondo from Tanzania. He worked as a principal tutor for Agency for Development of Education Management, (EDAM), chairperson of the Registered Trustees of Beery and Helping Hands Trust, part-time consultant of NICE Tanzania, managing director of Rahma and Ehha Schools, co-founder and CEO of Genuine Educator Sky Company Limited. He is a master holder from master trainer from Namas Root program that was technically conducted by SEGA. As an outcome from this program, he's a human developer who works as a trainer for trainers, a teacher for teachers, a counselor for counselors, as well as a coach for coaches. He attained his doctorate degree 7 years ago, and since then he's been actively providing technical and inspirational support to 9 doctorate students who have successfully graduated. On the other hand, he also published a single paper article, and this is not supposed to be sound normal to majority, but he decided to publish more person than academic papers. This is by design. Additionally, his mission to inspire and support as many 100 students to attain their PhD degrees. Worthy noting, he stimulates and challenges students to think and act extraordinary as a hope bringer to communities and humanity as a whole through inspiration, innovation, and solution. Brother Baraka, the floor is yours. Brother Baraka, you're still on mute. Dr. Baraka? Dr. Baraka?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Wait,
thank you a lot, Mr. Ibrahim.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. And I am very much honored for this opportunity. And I have one emergency request to the organizers, if we can switch with the next speaker, because I have traveled to up country and I'm now encountering some challenges with connectivity that I think within 15 minutes I'll be done and I'll be in a position to make my presentation. So I would like to apologize that I can't pick up this minute. And if we can switch with the next speaker, that you can give me some 15 minutes to fix the power
Okay,
problem I have now.
Masya Allah, no problem, Brother Dr. Baraka. So
Thank
if
you
that's
very
the
much.
case, Dr. Fozi, are you around? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay, so while we waiting for Dr. Baraka to settle his connectivity issues, let me introduce our next speaker, Dr. Fozi Ali Balhat. He's a faculty member in Faculty of Business Studies, Arab Open University, Kedah, Saudi Arabia. He's major in management and has extensive experiences in management, academic, and leadership. He joined academic field since 1999 in Hadramaut University, Yemen, and joined the Al-Ulum University in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia 2015-2017. He appointed, he's been appointed in several managerial positions, including the Vice Dean of Student Affairs, Vice Dean of Community Services in Hadramaut Universities, Head of Human Resources Department, and Head of Quality Assurance and Accreditation Unit in Darul University, member of the University Council, Faculty of Business Studies, Quality Assurance Committee, Academic Arab Open University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He is a head and member in many committees, present training courses, consulting services in management, entrepreneurship, and leadership. Dr. Fozi research focuses on management aspect, and he has good communication, interpretation skill, and ability to work within a team effectively. He is very keen for knowledge and interested in conducting academic research and has publications in his interest area to improve skill and adapt updates. So, with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Fozi.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim. Good morning, everybody in Saudi, and good afternoon, Malaysia. Uh, Thank you for all. Thank you, Nama, to invite us to attend this conference. It is good opportunity to contribute our knowledge with these valuable conferences with Nama. Thank you for all colleagues and attendees. Uh, our today paper will be our contribution in this conference related to the recently crisis in the world. I'm going to talking about the corona virus and education sector experiences in this world, especially in the Gulf countries. So let me to share you uh, this presentation to save our time. I think can you see? Can you see? Can you see slide?
Yes, we see you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yes, sir.
okay. As you know, this crisis outbreak affected all the people around this world and affected all aspects of our life, social, education, manufacturing, services, all sectors affected by this pandemic. So our focus here will be in the one of the major sectors that affected due this pandemic uh, is education sector. So this education sector affected by closed many or most of the educational institutions, schools, universities, and there are around 1.5 billion children and young people out of the classroom in around of 186 countries in this world. So Arab countries is not out of this effect of this pandemic or crisis, so it is already around 13 million children and youth and the people they affected Arab countries. Our focus in Gulf cooperation countries that will be highlighted in this session are Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, and Bahrain. So we will go through this session about their experiences, how they cope with or to deal with this pandemic, especially in education sector, and what are the solutions and their techniques or strategy or plan that will be set in the future to keep the continuity of the education process. So in Saudi Arabia, as we know, the first case of coronavirus was in 3rd of March 2020. So at that time, the Saudi Arabia implemented the lockdown of the most public and private services in the response of this pandemic to keep all the people are safely and in order to uh, keep the learning process and to provide it to all the students in universities or in schools. They suspended all the universities and schools and they followed by the activation, the online education during this period. Uh, Saudi Arabia has a strong technology infrastructure, and they don't face any problem to switch or to move into the online in the universities and other schools in primary and secondary schools. So the government in KSA they make the education in their priorities, and they conduct a lot of meeting in the Ministry of Education, where the government also they provided and support all education institutions by the consultations. Uh, Good infrastructure. I mean, in the technology infrastructure. So KS is one of the leader who lead this pandemic in the education in the education sector. Similarly, in the Arab or in the Emirates or United Arab Emirates, affected as well by this pandemic, and Ministry of Education in Emirate is going to reduce the campus or to go to the campus and stop the class teaching to replacing with the online. Uh, they announced it by 2 weeks break till they settled the movement into the online. After that, after 2 weeks, they also decided to continue online learning until they update the uh, the students about the rules and regulation in order to keep them safe. The same thing, United Arab Emirates, they have a good infrastructure. They applied a good and circulator rule and regulation by use the guidelines in the whole university and schools related to these issues. Ministry of Education and collaborating with universities and other education institutions provide excellent rules, regulation uh, by help the country leaders to ensure to continuity of the education process in the country. Excellent infrastructure as well played a good role to activate and facilitate the online learning process in Emirat, and they provide uh, uh, devices and tools to some students in their houses uh, and they give them a good chance to use the online learning till they pass this pandemic. Qatar, in the same way of the Saudi and uh, Emirat, they also have a good infrastructure to over the online learning. So it ensures that education process continue remotely and smoothly despite the approach of this pandemic that affect tutors and students in public and private universities and schools. Qatar have a good experience have a good experience to cope with this pandemic. They switch into online uh, and they select Microsoft Team and other platforms can be used by the student and they can access easily to discuss with them to deliver the learning material and they also over the other broadcast and YouTube's online for the student who cannot access the online in the same time of this or of the classes or lectures. So Ministry of Education in Qatar also monitored the higher education institution in order to keep the quality of the assessment and the quality of the learning there by conduct or monitor the policies and the assessment techniques in their universities. Oman also not left this COVID pandemic, and the government attempt to protect their public health, including the students, to responding to this pandemic in Oman. They try to support the education sector, and they have a good initiatives after they close the schools to cope with this pandemic. Especially, they reported the first case on the 25th of February, so early before they spread or to decrease the spreadings of this virus. So, higher education institutions collaborating with the Ministry of Education in Oman uh, discuss it, and they decided to switch into the online mode to deliver the academic programs in and all learning materials in the schools. Uh, Most of higher education institutions in Oman had no prior experience in delivering program in online, like KSA and Emirat. But they strive and they applied varied approach depending on their size, governance models, disciplinary differences. Over more than 1 year pandemic now, higher education in Oman continued their program online, and they adapted the, uh, the online mode or online uh, approach, and they encourage the education ministry by their staff to present innovative techniques in online learning. In addition, the majority of the higher education institutions are rapidly transferred or moved from face-to-face classroom into online. They offer the calls from online, and they have black platforms that support this process. in order to cope with the learning problem or any issues that will be raised in the future. Kuwait, this is another country in the Gulf country that affected by this pandemic, but their experience is not like the other Gulf countries because the Ministry of Education institution, when they try to respond to the pandemic crisis, they mentioned that lack of professionalism of Ministry of Education leaders in handling the education sector. I'm talking about the staff, admin staff, the lack of the implementing online projects that were presented in the previous sections affected by the continuity of the learning process during this pandemic. Schools and universities were the first aspects that closed and affected by the pandemic. The Ministry of Education in Kuwait conducted several meetings with their staff and other aspects and authorities in Kuwait to resolve this problem to ensure they can be back again to the learning. They set many plans and establish online platform provided by the learning for all students. So they established online platforms and they continue to update these platforms uh, and continue to deliver the learning by the online. The last experience with the Bahrain Kingdom, uh, this is also has affected and announced that all operation strategy in public and private, they have a good strategy to cope with the this pandemic, and they divided this strategy in four levels: red, green, yellow, and orange. So under the green, that means student should be yeah, attending in the class in the class. In the yellow, I mean, in the green, they can attend 100% in the class, but in the yellow, they can yani, to reduce the attendance into 50% uh, in the class and 30 in orange. And they keep social distant, at least half an of meter. Uh, as the Gulf countries, Bahrain education institutions were closed in March 29, and there more than 150,000 students have been able to continue their education through this series of learning initiatives. So based on this strategy, in Bahrain Ministry of Education decided to move into the electronic education, I mean the e-learning, and set up by the Ministry of Education, collaborating with other educational institutions. So teaching in Bahrain is a good level, and they use the Microsoft Team besides the other tools and techniques. This allow the teacher and students can meet and to discuss to keep them safe. At the end of this session, we conclude by some recommendations and solutions based on our discussion. So the first, the government should give the priority for the education sector by providing them by sufficient financial resources and develop the professional capital, I mean the human resources, in order to adapt the technology to cope with the current and future challenges of corona, and maybe some or other future pandemic will happen. They should empower the effective leaders in education sector to handle these problems in their sector. They should prepare a good emergency plans and have authority to take a decision, uh, especially for these urgent issues to cope with this uh, problem. Online online learning has become priority for education, so most of the countries, they have a good infrastructure, they implement online learning, so it becomes uh, needed. So it's recommended that all universities and education institutions to follow or to implement this kind of learning, especially or to apply at least the blended learning, to attend, for example, 50% and 50% online. Digital infrastructure are very important to support online to cope with these current and future challenges. So education institutions should be focused on different ways and techniques, method, uh, and to create other ways and introduce innovative solution to cope with this pandemic or any challenges in the future. Uh, the staff, teachers, tutors, management, admin in this institution, the education institution should be trained, and they joined the training programs to help them how to they adapt the technology techniques, the technology uh, 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 tools, or how they can deal with this advanced technology in order to support the learning process in their institutions. In the research, for further researchers, they can conduct some researches, especially with the factors of education sector related with this pandemic, the coronavirus, and they reflect other experiences in other countries. Also, the decision makers, they can in Gulf countries or other countries, they can compare different strategies adopted by other educational institutions in this world for online education or blended learning, and how they cope or past this problem, uh, and by considering to keep the quality of learning process by focusing on the effectiveness and the assessment and measurement of their students' performance. Uh, thank you for all. I think that's all in my session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fozi, for your insight. And quite interesting to see how responses from different countries to pandemic, and how the risk method that be implemented, and also the innovation that been taken up to assist the online learning. Would love to see more of this, but in interest of time, I need to call Dr. Baraka back to stage to deliver his presentation. I believe Dr. Baraka we cannot get Dr. Baraka back. I'm afraid we could not get Dr. Baraka back to the session. Uh, and then I think we are about time to finish up the session. Any question from the audience? Um, Actually, I have a couple of questions, Dr. Fauzi.
Yes.
Okay, in terms of initiative that done by the government, I see that's quite a lot. But is there any contribution from the private sectors and also the non-profit in terms of helping the infrastructure, in terms of hardware, software? Is there any initiative by the non-profit and also the corporate sector?
Yes, Mr. Ibrahim, many of the, some of the Gulf countries, in KSA and Qatar, based on this paper, they support all institutions, all education institutions by helping them to set the infrastructure about the platforms, softwares, and they provide them with sufficient consultations and softwares that they needed in order to keep online learning. Yes, they support, and some of the government they provide the poor students with some device like laptops, access for internet. Yeah, yeah. Yes,
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Okay, we got another question from our sister from Indonesia, Nice Indonesia.
yes.
Good day to all speakers. I'm Aina from Nice Indonesia. I would like to ask to Dr. Fozi, okay, to you again, Doctor. What do you think is the best effort for NGO to support the education during this pandemic, especially for third world countries? Your thought on that?
Yes, as we mentioned in the previous few minutes, there's some of NGOs, institutions, and some universities. I mean, for Arab Open University, this non-profit university. So they contribute to over a good chance for the student to access and to use their facilities to access their classes, and the responsibility or the contribution of NGOs, they can help and they can support the students. I mean, to get devices, to get the internet, or to uh, uh, conduct, for example, classes with keep the social distance for them. I mean, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. I believe NGOs all over the world actually helping with the education. Even in Malaysia, I've noticed a lot of NGOs going to grassroots, going to corporate to get sponsorship, to get laptops, to get tablet. I believe the same in case of Saudi Arabia. I believe.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, at least they can support, and during this pandemic, the
Yeah.
role of NOG or non-profit or
Yeah.
non
Okay.
organization
Thank you.
plays a
Yeah.
good role.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Fauzi, for your wisdom that you shared with us this afternoon. I believe we learned a lot from you, and definitely we have. Oh, sorry, we have another question. Sorry, can we entertain another question, Dr. Fauzi?
Yes, does that mean the technology has come to replace our face-to-face in real time
Yeah.
phenomenon from Rupi? Um, yes, now the advanced technology. Let me to give you my experience in my university. This is we
Mm,
apply the blended learning, so it's a mix of face-to-face and online learning.
mm,
So it will not to replace it 100%, but nowadays technology becomes needed for in all aspects, especially in the education sector. So it will not replace it 100%, but the advanced technology now help us to save our time, to save our distance. So, like now, in order instead to come to Malaysia, Dr.
yeah.
Fauzi now in KSA, and we discussed with you. So there is, I think, no, yes, there is some of the obstacles and disadvantage for online, especially
Yeah.
from the students' perspectives. But by their experience, of course, they will pass this obstacle, especially in the social science. But for example, in the medicine, for engineering, yes, we need face-to-face or in campus learning process. So
Yeah.
it is I
Mashallah.
recommended to apply the blended learning. That's very good to save the cost and also to save the time for both organizations and the community. I mean the students.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Fauzi. I think that's all the time that we have. We actually overrun a bit, but mashallah, we covered quite a lot. And again, thank you very much, Dr. Fozi, for your wisdom, and sharing all your thoughts and experience to us, and your the sharing of all the countries that under your supervision just now. It was wonderful. In such a short period of time, but you managed to cover so many things, all the
Yeah.
countries that you said just now, mashallah. So thank you very much. I enjoyed the session, and I hope the audience also enjoyed the session. We're going to take a short break of 5 minutes, and then we're going to resume another session after 5 minutes. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum assalam. Thank you so much.